Hi, everybody. Welcome. It is spring 2024, and you are in my Econ 145 class. We are going to get off to a little bit of a bumpy start, but it's going to be fine because of the conflict between the California Faculty Association and the CSU Chancellor's Office and their inability to come to a agreement on salary and raises for faculty. There is a strike for the first week of classes, which adds a lot of uncertainty and a lot of stress, and it is not a good time to be on campus. So we are going to conduct that first week virtually, and I'm happy to discuss it with you in any way that you would like. But what we're going to do is I am going to put together some materials for everybody to get them started. You already should have received an email from me about the expectations for this semester. Basically, I'm going to run 145 a little bit differently. We are going to try to keep it simple. We're still going to do what every 145 class does, which is put together a research project in 15 weeks. It's very ambitious. You know it. You probably talked about it with your peers since you started in the econ department here. It's a big deal, but we're going to try to make it as manageable and simple as possible. And so what that means is I'm going to limit what you can research to the things I'm the best at, so I can support you the most. We're going to try to limit our data collection to make it as simple as possible. We're going to try to pare down a lot of the big pieces to make them manageable. And I'm going to try to emphasize skills that I think will actually help you in the future, even if you don't want to go to grad school or become an economist. So things like research, data visualizations and analysis, those kinds of practical skills that I think are really, really actually useful. So we will be using statistical software analysis tools to run regressions, but I'm not going to emphasize that so much because I use Stata. Not everybody does. So the chances that you use Stata later in your life, maybe not. But we will focus on other skills that are useful. So writing skills, writing reports, always going to be useful. Data analysis, that is the skill set that we give to our econ majors. So cleaning data in Excel, finding ways to present that data in an attractive, clear, and meaningful way. We're definitely going to do that. Being able to process and interpret information and then present it to someone else, always useful no matter where you go in any industry. So we're definitely going to do that. So we'll still have a research project or a research paper at the end of the day. We'll still have presentations. But what I'm going to try to do is decrease the workload for y'all and for me so we can make this a sane, successful process that gives you tools and helps you really do what the goal of 145 is, which is create a project that is the summation of everything you've learned since you started your academic career, but do it in a way that doesn't have to be so explicitly painful. Because I don't think this needs to be a painful process to still be successful, meaningful, and really good. So that's what we're going to try to do. So what I would like you to do this first week is I will post some stuff on Canvas and I'd like you to take a look at it. I want you to start thinking about what you are interested in for a testable hypothesis. So you're going to want to take a look at the syllabus and look through what the deliverables are going to be. Every week you're going to have something delivered, something assignment turned in. We do that because the way you break this project down is one piece at a time, right? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? We're going to break this project down into small, manageable pieces so that when we get to week 14, week 15, you're not stressed. You're not going to be stressed. If you stay on top of everything, you come to class every week, and you get your work done, by week 14, it's actually going to be pretty chill because all you're going to be doing is editing and putting things together. You'll have done all the work all semester long, and that's what I want it to be. So for this first week or two, we want to start thinking about what we should already know, but might not totally remember about how to do research. So thinking about economic theories that you know, things like the models that explain behavior. So economic theories are when you're in a elective class or your 100A or your 100B, and we say, okay, there's this thing and this is how we explain it. And really, there's only a handful of base models that we modify to try and answer these questions. I'm a microeconomist, so I am not very good at macro stuff. I know a little, but we're going to keep it simple and be efficient, and so we're not going to do macro stuff. If you really want to do a macro research project, you can switch classes, you can talk to someone else, but I'm not going to work against my comparative advantage and spend a lot of energy helping you do something I don't know enough about to be really successful. So it's going to be stuff like consumer choice, producer choice, individual actors making decisions. If you've taken an elective with me, you can think about something that we learned about in those classes. But generally, the classes I teach are about government, finance, and local regulation, federal regulation, monopolies, and perfect competition, things like the economics of education, the economics of racism, those kinds of things, urban economics, where we talk about city structure, economies of scale and public transportation, producing public goods through government, and how those create pseudo-monopolies and natural monopolies. Those kinds of things I can really help you with. But you want to pick something that's a little bit interesting to you and that has data. And so that'll be the first couple of things we're going to do. We're going to try to find a testable hypothesis and then go out and build a data set in a literature review based on that testable hypothesis. And so that's really what this first week is for, is kind of hitting the ground running and getting up to speed with the basic skills of your micro 1B, 100B, and then picking a subject area that you're interested in, that we can have data for it, and then creating a testable hypothesis. And that's the first stage. And a testable hypothesis is something that we can measure a causal relationship with. So let me show you what I mean by that. Give me 1 second. So hopefully you remember from Econ 140 the idea that we can write the formula of a line y equals mx plus b in a different way. We can write it as y equals beta naught plus beta 1 x. And then that's going to give us a line. You can call that alpha if you want. It doesn't really matter. There's a lot of different ways to denote it. But the idea is that what we're doing here is we have a independent variable x, right? That has some coefficient here that measures the effect that x has on determining our dependent variable y. And y is our dependent variable because it depends on this entire equation here to determine its output. So if I put a 1 in for x, beta is going to have an effect on it to make it into something over here on the y, plus this constant. And in econ, we don't worry about the constant. We worry about the coefficient, because the coefficient here is actually the marginal effect x has on y. And so if I put an x in here, I'm going to get a beta 1 sized effect on y that's going to give me a line, right? That's a simple line. That's a simple relationship. That's also a simple regression. It's a simple regression where something here, like education, has an effect on something here, wages. And the size of the effect is determined by the coefficient. But there's other stuff going on. So a testable hypothesis is going to ask how x affects y, and then put in other x's too for a control variable, or to try and help us measure the other things going on. So, as you start to think about what you want to do your research project on, I want you to think about creating a testable hypothesis in the world of microeconomics, a testable hypothesis for something looking at individual actors' decisions, households, firms, those kinds of things, even local governments if you want to, because really we're going to probably be doing a lot of aggregated data. But you want to be asking how X affects Y. We know it's going to have an effect. So you want to pick two things we know have an effect on each other from economic theory, because that's where economic theory comes in. Economic theory tells us we know that X affects Y. But now we want to use data to test the hypothesis for how X affects Y. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is this years of education and the probability of being incarcerated? Something like that. We have a theory for it, and then we're going to find data and test it. And so when I say a testable hypothesis, I mean something that is a sentence that you could transform into an equation like this, where X has an effect on Y. Okay? So this is just us getting started. I'll be posting new stuff all week to get us going. You can check out the syllabus. You can check out some examples. Definitely check out my YouTube channels where I've talked about this stuff. My 145 boot camp has a lot of the getting started stuff that you probably want to see. And I will reach out to you and we'll get going on this, and we are going to have a great semester. Please let me know what questions you have, and I'll see you all soon.